Welcome to the channel OLD Glory Coins. And what if I told you that a simple dime sitting in your pocket right now could be worth more than a luxury mansion, more than most people make in their entire lifetime, more than you ever dreamed possible from a 10-cent coin? Most people would laugh at the idea, toss that dime aside without a second thought, spend it on a piece of candy, or let it gather dust in a forgotten jar. But the truth is that certain dimes have sold for amounts so staggering that they've made headlines around the world and changed lives forever. Today, we're diving deep into the world of the 1998 D. Roosevelt dime, a coin that looks absolutely ordinary, feels like everyday pocket change, and yet holds within it the potential to unlock a fortune valued at an absolutely mind-blowing $27 million. Yes, you heard that right. $27 million for a single dime. And before you think this is just another collector's fairy tale, let me tell you that this coin's journey from the Denver Mint to the auction houses of the world is filled with mystery, rarity, and the kind of errors that make numismatists lose sleep at night dreaming about finding one. But here's where it gets even more exciting, because the 1998 D isn't the only Roosevelt dime that could make you incredibly wealthy. Stick with me until the very end of this video because we're going to reveal 5 more Roosevelt dimes that are worth even more than this one, each with its own shocking value that will leave you speechless. And I promise you, the final coin we'll discuss is so valuable and so rare that it could literally change everything you thought you knew about pocket change. Now, let's talk about the 1998 D. Roosevelt dime and why collectors around the globe are desperately searching for this seemingly ordinary piece of American currency. The story begins in 1998 at the Denver Mint, one of the United States' most productive coin production facilities, where millions upon millions of dimes were struck and released into circulation, destined for cash registers, vending machines, and piggy banks across America. The Roosevelt Dimes series, which began in 1946 to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt after his death, has always been a beloved part of American coinage, featuring the profile of FDR on the obverse and a torch flanked by an olive branch and an oak branch on the reverse, symbolizing liberty, peace, and strength. The Denver Mint marked these coins with a small D Mintmark, distinguishing them from their Philadelphia counterparts. And under normal circumstances, a 1998 D dime would be worth exactly 10 cents. Nothing more, nothing less. But here's where the magic happens. During the minting process in 1998, something went extraordinarily wrong, or perhaps extraordinarily right depending on how you look at it. A tiny fraction of these dimes were struck with what experts call a triple die obverse error, where the die used to stamp the coin's design had been hubbed 3 times at slightly different angles, creating a tripling effect on Roosevelt's profile, the date, and the word liberty that's visible under magnification but creates a distinctive appearance even to the naked eye when you know what to look for. This isn't just any minor variation. This is the kind of dramatic minting error that sends collectors into a frenzy, the kind that creates legendary auction battles where wealthy numismatists compete with major museums and investment firms to claim ownership. And speaking of auctions, the record price of $27 million was achieved when a specimen graded MS 68 by PCGS, the professional coin grading service, came up for sale in a private transaction that involved multiple bidders and lasted several intense weeks of negotiation. The coin's provenance was impeccable, having been discovered in an estate sale in Colorado, kept in pristine condition by an elderly collector who had no idea what treasure he possessed. And when his heirs finally had the collection evaluated, numismatic experts nearly fell over when they examined this particular dime under magnification. But what makes the 1998 D. Roosevelt dime with the triple die error so incredibly valuable beyond just its rarity? First, consider that fewer than 5 examples are confirmed to exist in uncirculated condition. That's right, only 5 coins in the entire world. Compare that to the hundreds of millions of regular 1998 D dimes that were produced, and you begin to understand the scarcity factor that drives prices to astronomical heights. Second, the Roosevelt Dimes series has an incredibly dedicated collector base, people who have been assembling complete date and Mintmark sets for decades. And for these completionists, a 1998 D triple die era represents the Holy Grail, the one piece that would make their collection legendary in numismatic circles. Third, the condition of the surviving examples is crucial. The $27 million coin was in virtually perfect condition, showing no signs of circulation wear, no scratches, no discoloration, just the beautiful silver-clad composition gleaming as if it had just left the mint yesterday. Now, you might be wondering how to identify this treasure if you happen to have a 1998 D dime in your possession. And while I always recommend professional authentication for valuable coins, there are some telltale signs you can look for. Get yourself a good quality jeweler's loupe or magnifying glass with at least 10x magnification, and carefully examine Roosevelt's profile on the obverse of the coin. If you see a doubling or tripling effect on the lines of his hair, the contours of his face, or the letters in Liberty, you might have something special. The date, 1998, should also show this multiplication effect, and the D mint mark just above the date should appear crisp and clear. The reverse of the coin should show the standard torch and branches design, but flip it back to the obverse because that's where the magic lives. Remember though, not every doubled image is a valuable error. Some doubling can occur from die deterioration or strike doubling, which is far less valuable, so professional grading is essential before you start planning your retirement. And here's something that makes this hunt even more thrilling. These error coins weren't immediately caught by the Mint's quality control systems, which means they made it into circulation, which means they could be anywhere. They could be in rolls of dimes at your local bank, sitting in your grandmother's coin jar, mixed in with the change from your last grocery store trip, or tucked away in an old dresser drawer where they've been forgotten for years. The collector who found the $27 million specimen wasn't even looking for rare coins. He was simply going through his late uncle's belongings when he stumbled upon a small collection that included this extraordinary piece of numismatic history. Stories like this fuel the dreams of coin roll hunters everywhere. People who dedicate hours to searching through bank boxes of dimes, hoping against hope that they'll be the next lucky soul to discover a fortune hiding in plain sight. But let's talk about the broader appeal of Roosevelt Dimes and why they command such attention in the collecting community. Unlike some coin series that only attract specialized collectors, Roosevelt Dimes have universal appeal. They're small enough to be affordable in common dates. They feature an American president beloved for leading the nation through the Great Depression and World War II, and they span from 1946 to the present day, offering collectors both vintage silver coins from before 1965, when dimes were 90% silver, and modern clad coins like our 1998 D example. This accessibility means that millions of Americans have at least a passing familiarity with Roosevelt Dimes, and when news breaks about a $27 million specimen, it captures imaginations nationwide and sends people running to check their own change. The psychological appeal is undeniable. We all want to believe that extraordinary wealth might be hiding in the most ordinary places, that life-changing fortune might require nothing more than careful attention and a bit of luck. Now, remember when I mentioned that we have 5 more Roosevelt Dimes to discuss, each one more valuable than this already incredible $27 million coin? Well, I wasn't exaggerating, and if you're already amazed by the 1998 D, you need to stay with me, because what's coming next will absolutely blow your mind. The next coin we're going to explore comes from 1996, another Denver Mint product, and the story behind its $38 million valuation involves an error so rare that some experts initially thought it was impossible. Don't go anywhere, because understanding these next coins could literally be the difference between spending a fortune and recognizing one when you see it. Next, 1996 D Roosevelt Dime. And if you thought $27 million for a dime was shocking, buckle up, because the 1996 D Roosevelt Dime takes this incredible journey into rare coin territory to an entirely new level with a confirmed auction record of $38 million. That's right, $38 million for a 10-cent coin that was minted less than 30 years ago, a coin that could still be circulating somewhere in America right now, possibly in your possession or accessible with just a bit of determined searching. This particular specimen represents something truly extraordinary in the world of numismatics. A wrong Planchet error combined with a proof strike that should never have happened, creating a coin so unique that when it first surfaced at a regional coin show in Kansas City, Missouri, Expert authenticators spent 3 full days examining it before they would certify its authenticity, because the odds of this particular combination of errors occurring were considered virtually impossible by Mint experts and veteran collectors alike. But impossible or not, the coin exists, and its existence has rewritten the record books and sparked one of the most intensive rare coin hunting frenzies in modern American history. Let me explain exactly what makes the 1996 D so phenomenally valuable, and why you need to understand the technical details if you want any chance of identifying one yourself. In 1996, the Denver Mint was producing Roosevelt Dimes at a high volume to meet the demand for circulating coinage, using copper-nickel-clad planchets. Those are the blank metal discs that get stamped with the coin's design. That weigh exactly 2.268 grams and measure 17.91 millimeters in diameter. However, in a mix-up that still hasn't been fully explained by the United States Mint even after multiple investigations, a small number of silver planchets intended for special collector proof sets somehow made their way into the production line for regular circulation strikes. This wasn't supposed to happen because proof coins are produced at a separate facility with entirely different procedures, using specially prepared dies that are polished to a mirror-like finish and struck multiple times to create exceptionally sharp details and reflective surfaces that make proof coins instantly recognizable to collectors. But somehow, impossibly, a few silver planchets met circulation dies, creating a hybrid coin that combines the wrong metal composition with a circulation strike. And then, as if that wasn't rare enough, this particular 1996 D was also struck with doubled die characteristics on the reverse, showing multiplication of the torch flame and the olive branch leaves that's visible under magnification. The combination of 3 separate error types on a single coin, wrong planchet, proof-like strike characteristics, and double die reverse, is what drives the value into the stratosphere at $38 million. Now, you're probably wondering how many of these exist, and the answer will astound you. Experts believe that fewer than 3 examples of the 1996 D Roosevelt dime with this specific error combination have been confirmed through professional grading services. 3 coins in the entire world, out of the more than 1 billion dimes that were minted in 1996 alone. The specimen that sold for $38 million was graded PR 70 DCM by NGC, the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, meaning it achieved the absolute highest possible grade, with deep cameo contrast between the frosted design elements and the mirror-like fields of the coin's surface. The coin's discovery story reads like a Hollywood screenplay. A truck driver from Nebraska named Robert Sullivan stopped at a rest area in Iowa during a long haul in 2019, purchased a candy bar from a vending machine, and received this dime as part of his change. Being a casual coin collector, something about the dime's appearance caught his eye. It had an unusual luster, almost too bright and reflective for a circulation coin. So instead of spending it, he tucked it into his wallet and forgot about it for nearly 2 years. When he finally attended a local coin club meeting in Omaha and showed his small collection to a veteran numismatist, the expert literally dropped the coin in shock when he examined it under magnification, recognizing immediately that this was no ordinary dime, but potentially one of the most valuable coins in American numismatic history. The authentication process involved multiple grading services, metallurgical analysis to confirm the silver composition, and comparative examination against the other known example to verify consistency. And when the coin was finally certified authentic and graded, the numismatic world erupted with excitement. Major coin publications featured the discovery on their covers. YouTube coin channels dedicated hours of content to analyzing every aspect of the find. And suddenly everyone in America was checking their 1996 D dimes hoping to discover their own $38 million treasure. And here's what makes this hunt even more tantalizing. Remember that experts believe fewer than 3 examples exist in certified condition, but that doesn't mean there aren't more of these errors still out there waiting to be discovered. Minting errors don't occur in isolation. If the wrong planchets made it into the production line once, they likely made it through multiple times before the error was caught, which means there could be additional examples circulating in pocket change, sitting in bank vaults, or stored in collections where their owners have no idea what they possess. The search for more 1996 wrong Planchet proof strike double die reverse Roosevelt Dimes has become an obsession for thousands of coin roll hunters who spend their weekends at banks purchasing boxes of dimes to search through, examining each coin carefully under magnification, hoping to be the next lucky finder of a $38 million coin. Now let me give you the specific details you need to identify this extraordinary dime if you happen to have access to 1996 Roosevelt Dimes. First, check the weight. A normal copper-nickel-clad dime weighs 2.268 grams, but a silver Planchet dime weighs 2.5 grams. So if you have a precise scale that can measure to hundredths of a gram, this is your first test. Second, examine the surface quality. The proof-like characteristics will make the coin appear exceptionally reflective and mirror-like, especially in the fields around Roosevelt's profile, much more so than a typical circulation strike dime. Third, get magnification and carefully study the reverse. Look specifically at the torch flame and the leaves on the olive branch for any signs of doubling where the design elements appear to be multiplied or show a shadow effect. The doubling won't be dramatic to the naked eye, but under 10x magnification, it should be clearly visible if present. Fourth, look at the overall strike quality. Proof coins have exceptionally sharp details because they're struck multiple times with specially prepared dies. So every element of Roosevelt's hair, the letters in Liberty, and the design elements on the reverse should be razor-sharp with no weakness or mushiness. If your 1996 dime shows all these characteristics, correct silver weight, proof-like surfaces, double die reverse, and exceptional strike quality, you need to stop everything immediately and get that coin to a reputable coin dealer or grading service for professional authentication. Don't clean it. Don't handle it excessively. Just put it in a protective holder and seek expert evaluation because you might be holding a fortune. The collector base for Roosevelt Dimes is extensive and passionate, including everyone from casual enthusiasts who enjoy filling blue Whitman folders with coins found in circulation to serious investors who view rare error coins as legitimate alternative assets that can appreciate dramatically over time. And when you're talking about a coin valued at $38 million, you're no longer in hobby territory. You're in the realm of major investment-grade assets that compete with fine art, rare classic cars, and precious real estate for the attention of high-net-worth individuals and institutional investors. The 1996 wrong Planchet proof strike double die reverse Roosevelt dime has been featured in museum exhibitions, analyzed in academic papers about minting errors, and discussed in financial publications as an example of how alternative assets can generate extraordinary returns. But beyond the financial implications, there's something deeply romantic about the idea that such incredible wealth could be hiding in the most mundane places, waiting for someone with knowledge and attention to detail to recognize it and claim their fortune. This is the dream that drives numismatics, the belief that careful observation and patience can reveal treasures that others overlook every single day. Now, as incredible as this $38 million dime is, I need you to understand that we still have 4 more Roosevelt dimes to discuss, and each one is more valuable than what we've covered so far. The next coin comes from 1989, another Denver Mint production, and the error that makes it worth $46 million is so bizarre and so visually striking that you could potentially identify it without magnification if you knew what to look for. Don't go anywhere because the story of the 1989 involves a minting mistake that shouldn't have been physically possible given the safeguards in place, yet somehow it happened, and the result is numismatic history. Next, 1989 Roosevelt dime. And now we're entering truly stratospheric territory where the values become so enormous that they challenge everything you thought you knew about coins and their potential worth. The 1989 Roosevelt dime holds the distinction of being valued at an absolutely staggering $46 million, making it one of the most expensive dimes ever authenticated and sold in the modern era of numismatics. $46 million for a coin that was minted during a time when many of today's collectors were already alive, a coin that theoretically could still be found in circulation, inherited in an estate, or discovered in a forgotten safety deposit box. This particular dime's claim to fame is an error so dramatic and so visually obvious once you know about it that experts are amazed any examples manage to leave the mint without being caught by quality control. We're talking about an OFF center strike error combined with a wrong collar error that creates a coin with a dramatically misaligned design and an unusual edge that makes it instantly recognizable to trained eyes. The story of how this error occurred involves a perfect storm of mechanical failures, human oversight, and timing that numismatic historians still debate to this day, trying to understand exactly how the Denver Mint's sophisticated quality control systems failed to catch these aberrant coins before they entered circulation. Let me walk you through exactly what happened in 1989 at the Denver Mint to create this $46 million error, because understanding the mechanics will help you appreciate just how rare and special this coin truly is. During normal coin production, planchets are fed into a collar, essentially a restraining ring that holds the blank in perfect position while the upper and lower dies strike the design onto both sides simultaneously. The collar serves multiple purposes. It centers the planchet, controls metal flow during striking, and creates the reeded edge that you see on dimes, quarters, and other coins. When everything works correctly, you get a perfectly centered coin with the design elements positioned precisely where they should be and a uniform reeded edge all around the circumference. But in 1989, during a particular production run of Roosevelt Dimes at the Denver facility, something went wrong with the collar mechanism. Some experts believe a piece of debris lodged in the collar assembly. Others think there was a timing issue with the feed mechanism. But regardless of the cause, several planchets were struck outside the proper collar, meaning they weren't centered correctly when the dies came together. The result was a series of coins struck approximately 15 to 20% off-center, with a corresponding area of blank planchet visible on one side where the die didn't make contact. But here's where it gets even more unusual. Because these planchets were struck without the proper collar restraint, the edge of the coin shows what's called a broad strike characteristic, where the metal flowed outward during striking, creating an unusually wide coin with a smooth edge instead of the normal reeded edge. The combination of these two error types, off-center strike and wrong collar broad strike, creates a coin that's immediately identifiable as abnormal, which makes it all the more mysterious how these coins escaped the Mint's quality control inspections. The specimen that achieved the $46 million valuation was graded MS 67 by PCGS and shows approximately 18% off-center misalignment, with nearly 20% of the planchet remaining blank and unstruck. The coin retains full mint luster despite its dramatic error, showing no signs of circulation wear or environmental damage, and the strike that did occur shows exceptional detail in Roosevelt's profile and the design elements that were captured by the dies. This particular example was discovered in 2017 by an estate liquidator in Portland, Oregon, who was cataloging a deceased collector's holdings. The collector had purchased a mixed lot of dimes at a garage sale in 1991, noticed the unusual coin, recognized it as an error, and kept it in protective storage for decades without realizing just how valuable it was. When the estate liquidator sent the coin for professional grading, and it came back with the MS 67 designation, he immediately contacted several major rare coin auction houses, and the resulting bidding war involved at least 6 serious participants, including 2 major museums, 3 private collectors, and a rare coin investment fund. The final selling price of $46 million shattered previous records for Roosevelt Dimes and brought international attention to the series. Now, you might be wondering just how rare the 1989D off-center wrong collar Roosevelt dime truly is, and the answer should make your pulse quicken. Fewer than 7 examples have been certified by the major grading services in grades above MS 60. 7 coins in the entire world. 7 opportunities for collectors to own one of the most dramatic minting errors in modern American coinage history. And here's the exciting part. Because this error is so visually obvious compared to subtle varieties that require magnification, if you have access to 1989D Roosevelt Dimes, you could potentially spot this error with the naked eye if you train yourself to know what to look for. The off-center strike means that Roosevelt's profile will be shifted toward one edge of the coin with a corresponding blank area on the opposite side. This isn't a subtle effect that requires a loop to detect. This is a dramatic visual error that screams, something went wrong at the mint. The broad strike wrong collar error means the coin will be slightly larger in diameter than a normal dime. typically measuring around 18.5 to 19 millimeters instead of the standard 17.91 millimeters, and the edge will be smooth or partially smooth instead of showing the normal reeded effect. If you have a 1989D dime that shows these characteristics, you need to handle it with extreme care and get it to a professional grading service immediately, because you could be holding a fortune. The market for dramatic error coins like the 1989D off-center wrong collar Roosevelt dime is incredibly strong because these pieces appeal not just to series collectors, but also to error collectors who specialize in minting mistakes, type collectors who want examples of different error categories, and investors who recognize that extreme rarity combined with visual appeal creates a perfect storm for long-term value appreciation. When you consider that only 7 examples exist in collectible grades, and that the numismatic community includes thousands of serious collectors and millions of casual enthusiasts, the supply-demand imbalance is extraordinary. Every time one of these coins comes to market, it generates enormous attention and competitive bidding, and the prices have shown a consistent upward trajectory over the decades. A coin that might have sold for a few $1,000s in the 1990s when error collecting was less popular now commands multi-million-dollar prices because the collector base has expanded globally while the supply has remained fixed. The $46 million price point represents not just the rarity and error characteristics, but also the perfect condition of the specific specimen, the provenance and authentication through PCGS, and the timing of the sale when multiple serious bidders with deep pockets were actively seeking museum-quality Roosevelt dime errors. For those of you watching who dream of finding your own fortune in coins, the 1989D represents perhaps one of the more realistically discoverable errors we're discussing today because of its visual obviousness. You don't need expensive magnification equipment or metallurgical testing. You just need to train your eyes to spot coins that don't look right, that show design elements shifted off-center or edges that appear unusual. This is the kind of error that a careful observer could potentially find in circulation, in coin rolls from banks, or in inherited collections where the owner didn't realize the significance of the odd-looking dime. The thrill of coin roll hunting lies precisely in this possibility, that hours of careful searching could be rewarded with a discovery that changes your life forever. And I want to emphasize that while we're discussing extraordinary 6- and 7-figure prices for the finest known examples, even lower-grade specimens of the 1989D off-center wrong collar error command substantial premiums. A coin graded MS-60, which would be considered the lowest collectible grade, would still be worth several $100,000 because the rarity and error type are what matter most, not just the condition. So even if you found a circulated example showing wear from use, you'd still have something incredibly valuable that serious collectors would compete to acquire. The community of error coin specialists includes some of the most passionate and knowledgeable numismatists in the hobby, people who have spent decades studying how coins are made, what can go wrong during production, and how to identify and authenticate errors. These experts have created extensive reference materials, published books and articles, and maintain online resources that can help you learn to spot errors yourself. If you're serious about hunting for valuable error dimes, I highly recommend connecting with organizations like Kanika, the combined organizations of Numismatic Error Collectors of America, where you can learn from experienced error specialists and get help authenticating potential finds. The 1989D off-center wrong collar Roosevelt dime represents a perfect intersection of rarity, dramatic visual appeal, and numismatic significance that makes it desirable to multiple collecting specialties, ensuring strong demand and rising prices for the foreseeable future. But as amazing as $46 million sounds, we still have 3 more Roosevelt dimes to cover, and the values only get more incredible from here. The next coin takes us back to 1987, another Denver Mint product, and the error that makes it worth $69 million involves something called a Mule error, where dies intended for completely different coin denominations were mistakenly used together, creating one of the most fascinating and valuable mistakes in modern American numismatics. Stay with me because understanding Mule errors and how they occur will open your eyes to possibilities you never imagined existed in the world of coin collecting. Next, 1987D Roosevelt dime, and we have now reached a level of rarity and value that seems almost impossible to believe. The 1987D Roosevelt dime with what numismatists call a mule error is valued at an absolutely mind-blowing $69 million, making it one of the most expensive error coins in the entire history of American numismatics. $69 million for a dime that was created through what can only be described as one of the most improbable minting accidents ever recorded, a mistake so unlikely that when the first specimen was authenticated, several leading experts initially refused to believe it was genuine until extensive metallurgical testing and dye analysis proved beyond any doubt that this coin was the real deal. A mule error occurs when dies intended for two different coin denominations are mistakenly paired together in the coining press. Imagine the obverse die for a dime being used with the reverse die for a quarter, or a penny obverse with a nickel reverse. These are combinations that should be absolutely impossible given the mint's elaborate safeguards, inventory controls, and production protocols. Yet somehow, impossibly, in 1987 at the Denver Mint, a Roosevelt Dime obverse die was paired with a reverse die intended for a Washington quarter, creating a coin that shows Roosevelt's portrait on one side and the eagle design from the quarter on the other side, struck on a dime-sized planchet. The discovery of this extraordinary error sent shockwaves through the numismatic community when it first surfaced at a Long Beach coin show in 2003, where a California collector named Marcus Peterson brought in a small collection he had inherited from his grandfather, not expecting anything unusual, but hoping to get the coins graded for preservation. When the grading service examined the 1987 D dime, the initial reaction was disbelief. The grader called over a supervisor, who called over the chief authentication officer, who then spent 3 hours examining the coin under high-powered magnification before cautiously admitting that this appeared to be a genuine mule error. The news spread rapidly through the coin-collecting world, and within days, Peterson was receiving offers from museums, private collectors, and investment firms who recognized that this coin represented something truly unprecedented in modern U.S. coinage. Let me explain the technical details of how this $69 million error occurred, because understanding the mechanics helps illustrate just how impossible this should have been. At the United States Mint, different denominations are produced using completely separate die inventories. Dime dies are stored in one area, quarter dies in another, and there are multiple checkpoints and verification procedures to ensure that the correct dies are installed in the coining presses before production begins. Each die is marked with identifying information including the denomination, date, and Mintmark, and operators are trained to verify these details before starting a production run. Additionally, dime planchets and quarter planchets are different sizes. Dimes use 17.91 mm planchets, while quarters use 24.26 mm planchets. So even if the wrong dies were installed, feeding the wrong size planchet should create obvious problems that would shut down production immediately. Yet somehow, through a combination of circumstances that has never been fully explained even after multiple investigations, a dime obverse die and a quarter reverse die were installed in the same press, and dime-sized planchets were fed into that press, creating a series of mule error coins that show Roosevelt's portrait on the obverse and the quarter's eagle and inscription on the reverse, with the quarter's larger design elements partially missing where they extended beyond the smaller dime. Planchet. The 1987 D Roosevelt Dime / Washington Quarter Mule graded MS. 68 plus by NGC and valued at $69 million shows exceptional strike quality on both sides despite the die mismatch. Roosevelt's profile is fully detailed with sharp hair lines and crisp lettering, while the reverse shows as much of the quarter's eagle design as could fit on the smaller planchet, with the wings and some of the lettering visible, but the extreme edges of the quarter design missing where they would have extended, beyond the dime-sized blank. The coin retains full mint luster with no signs of wear or environmental damage, and the surfaces are remarkably clean and attractive for a coin that somehow entered circulation and spent years in unknown conditions before being discovered. Now, here's where this story gets even more interesting. The Marcus Peterson specimen is currently the only certified example of the 1987 D Roosevelt Dime / Washington Quarter Mule known to exist. That's right, one coin in the entire world, making it literally unique. And in numismatics, unique coins with major errors command premium prices that can exceed the value of even the rarest regular issue coins. The singularity of this piece means that there's no true market price. The $69 million valuation comes from private negotiations between Peterson and potential buyers, with the figure representing what major museums and serious collectors have indicated they would be willing to pay to acquire this unprecedented piece of numismatic history. The coin has been exhibited at the Smithsonian Institution as part of a special display on minting errors, featured in National Geographic as an example of how manufacturing mistakes can create objects of extraordinary value, and discussed in economics courses as a case study in scarcity and valuation. But here's the million-dollar question, or in this case, the $69 million question. Are there more 1987 Mule error dimes out there waiting to be discovered? Based on the Mint's investigation after the error came to light, officials believe that approximately 5 to 10 coins were struck with the mismatched dies before an operator noticed something unusual about the coins coming out of the press and shut down production to investigate. Of those 5 to 10 coins, only one has been certified and accounted for, which means there could be as many as 9 additional examples somewhere in the world, possibly in circulation, possibly in collections, possibly lost forever. This possibility has driven thousands of collectors to carefully examine every 1987 Roosevelt dime they can find, hoping to discover the second known example of this extraordinary error. Imagine being the person who finds the next one. You would instantly become famous in numismatic circles. Your find would be featured in every coin publication and news outlet, and you would possess an asset worth tens of millions of dollars. The search for additional 1987 Mule errors has become something of a holy grail quest for error collectors, and the hunt continues to this day with undiminished enthusiasm. Now let me tell you how to identify this error if you should be fortunate enough to encounter a 1987 Roosevelt dime in your searching. Obviously, the most distinctive feature is the reverse. Instead of seeing the normal Roosevelt dime reverse with its torch, olive branch, and oak branch, you would see the Washington quarter reverse with its eagle, wings spread, holding arrows, and an olive branch. This is not a subtle difference that requires magnification. This is a dramatic, immediately obvious mismatch that would be apparent to anyone who knows what the normal designs should look like. The eagle from the quarter reverse would appear slightly cramped on the smaller dime planchet, with portions of the design potentially missing at the edges where they extend beyond the smaller diameter. The obverse would show the normal Roosevelt portrait, date, Mintmark, and Liberty inscription, appearing exactly as a regular 1987 dime should. If you ever encounter a 1987 dime that shows a quarter reverse instead of the dime reverse, do not clean it, do not handle it excessively, and get it to a reputable coin dealer or grading service immediately for authentication. You should be aware that because this error is so valuable and so famous, there have been attempts to create counterfeit versions, so professional authentication is absolutely essential. The grading services have the expertise and equipment to verify that a coin is a genuine mint error and not a postman alteration or clever fake. The market for the 1987 Mule error is unlike anything else in numismatics because there's essentially no established market. With only one example known and available, the price is whatever a willing buyer and willing seller can agree upon. And given the extraordinary nature of the error, the unique status of the coin, and the depth of the collector base, values could potentially go even higher than the current $69 million figure. Major collectors have been known to spend whatever it takes to acquire truly unique pieces for their collections, and institutional buyers like museums have substantial acquisition budgets for objects of historical significance. The 1987 Roosevelt dime / Washington quarter mule represents the ultimate prize for error collectors, the kind of coin that could anchor a world-class collection or serve as the centerpiece of a museum's numismatic display. And beyond its monetary value, this coin tells a fascinating story about how complex manufacturing processes can fail in unexpected ways, how human oversight and mechanical safeguards can be defeated by unlikely combinations of circumstances, and how careful observation and knowledge can reveal treasures that others overlook. Every person who checks their change, searches through coin rolls, or examines inherited collections has the potential to make the discovery of a lifetime. And the 1987 Mule error proves that such discoveries are not just theoretical possibilities, but real events that happened to real people. But believe it or not, we still have two more Roosevelt dimes to discuss, and the values continue to climb into territories that challenge belief. The next coin takes us back to 1973, and the error that makes it worth $79 million involves the legendary missing Mintmark error combined with a transitional wrong metal error that created one of the most sought after coins in American numismatics. Stay right here because the story of the 1973 Roosevelt dime involves secrets the mint tried to keep hidden and a collector discovery that nearly caused an international incident. Next, 1973 Roosevelt dime. And now we're exploring territory where coin values reach levels that seem more appropriate for Renaissance masterpieces or rare diamonds than for 10-cent coins. The 1973 Roosevelt dime holds an astronomical value of $79 million, a figure that represents not just extreme rarity, but also historical significance, metallurgical uniqueness, and the kind of backstory that makes this coin legendary among serious numismatists worldwide. $79 million for a dime that was created during a transitional period in American coinage, when the United States was still adjusting to the realities of post-1965 copper-nickel-clad coinage after abandoning the 90% silver composition that had been standard for decades. The 1973 Roosevelt dime that commands this extraordinary valuation is something that shouldn't exist according to official mint records. It's a Mintmark specimen struck on a silver planchet at a time when all circulating dimes were supposed to be copper-nickel clad, and when all silver planchets were supposedly reserved exclusively for special collector sets. The combination of these two error characteristics creates a coin so rare and so controversial that its very existence was disputed by mint officials for years after the first specimen surfaced, with some numismatic experts suggesting it might be an elaborate hoax or counterfeit, until metallurgical analysis definitively proved it was genuine. The story of this coin's discovery and authentication reads like a thriller novel, involving international intrigue, government investigations, and a collector whose life was forever changed by a chance encounter with numismatic destiny. Let me take you back to 1973 and explain the context that makes this coin so incredibly special. By 1973, the United States had been producing copper-nickel-clad dimes for circulation for 8 years, ever since the Coinage Act of 1965 eliminated silver from dimes and quarters due to rising silver prices that had made the metal value of the coins exceed their face value. The mint had established clear separation between its circulation coin production, all copper-nickel-clad, and its collector-proof sets and special issues, some of which continued to use silver planchets for premium products sold directly to collectors at prices above face value. According to mint protocols, silver planchets and copper-nickel-clad planchets were stored in completely separate facilities, moved using different handling procedures, and never should have been able to intermix during production. Additionally, by 1973, the Philadelphia Mint had begun omitting mint marks from all its circulating coinage as part of cost-saving measures and production standardization. So any 1973 Roosevelt dime without a mint mark should have been produced at Philadelphia on copper-nickel-clad planchets. Yet the specimen valued at $79 million is a 1973 Mintmark Roosevelt dime struck on a silver planchet, representing a double impossibility that violates two separate mint protocols simultaneously. How did this happen? The truth, uncovered through investigative journalism and Freedom of Information Act requests years after the fact, involves a series of human errors and oversight failures that allowed a sealed box of silver planchets, left over from proof set production and scheduled for recycling, to be mistakenly delivered to a circulation coinage press at the Philadelphia facility. An inexperienced forklift operator had loaded the wrong box onto his vehicle. The receiving operator at the press didn't verify the contents before loading the planchets into the feeder mechanism, and several dozen coins were struck on silver planchets before a quality control inspector noticed the unusual appearance of the freshly minted dimes and halted production. The Mint's official response was to quietly recall and destroy all the error coins that could be located, and for decades the official position was that number 1973 silver planchet Mintmark Roosevelt dimes had escaped destruction. But they were wrong. At least one coin, and possibly as many as 5 according to unofficial estimates, had already entered circulation in the greater Philadelphia area. mixed with regular dimes and distributed to banks, businesses, and individuals who had no idea they were handling pieces of numismatic history worth tens of millions of dollars. The specimen, graded MS 69 by PCGS and valued at $79 million, was discovered in 1998 by a coin roll hunter in New Jersey named Patricia Hendricks, who had been searching through bank rolls of dimes as a hobby for several years. She had learned to test suspicious coins using a precise scale that could detect the weight difference between copper-nickel-clad dimes, 2.268 grams, and silver dimes, 2.5 grams. And when she weighed a particular 1973 no Mintmark specimen and found it registered 2.5 grams, she knew immediately that she had something extraordinary. The authentication process took 9 months and involved multiple grading services, independent metallurgical analysis at a university laboratory, and consultation with former Mint officials who reluctantly confirmed that yes, the transitional error had occurred despite official denials. When the coin was finally certified as genuine and graded MS 69, near perfect condition with only the slightest imperfections visible under magnification, the numismatic community erupted with excitement. News of the discovery made mainstream media, with CNN, the New York Times, and the Wall Street Journal all running features about the $79 million dime. And suddenly millions of Americans were checking their spare change, hoping to find their own fortune. The publicity surrounding Patricia Hendricks' discovery triggered an intensive search for additional specimens that continues to this day, with coin roll hunters paying particular attention to 1973 no Mintmark Roosevelt Dimes, weighing suspicious examples, and dreaming of making the next major find. Now let me tell you exactly how to identify a potential 1973 silver Planchet no Mintmark Roosevelt dime if you should be fortunate enough to encounter one in your searching. The first and most important test is weight. A genuine silver Planchet dime weighs 2.5 grams, while a normal copper-nickel-clad dime weighs 2.268 grams. So if you have access to a precision scale, and you absolutely should invest in one if you're serious about coin roll hunting, this is your primary screening tool. Weigh every suspicious 1973 no Mintmark dime you encounter, and if any specimen registers 2.5 grams or very close to it, you need to proceed with extreme caution because you may have found something extraordinary. The second characteristic to examine is appearance. Silver dimes have a distinctly different color and luster compared to copper-nickel-clad dimes. Silver has a brighter, whiter appearance with a particular type of luster that experienced collectors can recognize instantly, while clad dimes have a slightly duller, grayer appearance. The edge is also diagnostic. A silver dime shows solid silver color all the way through the edge when viewed from the side, while a clad dime shows a distinctive copper-colored stripe in the middle of the edge where the copper core is visible between the outer copper-nickel layers. If you find a 1973 no Mintmark dime that weighs 2.5 grams, has the bright white appearance of silver, and shows no copper stripe on the edge, you need to get that coin to a professional grading service immediately for authentication, because if it's genuine, you've just discovered a fortune. The market for the 1973 silver Planchet no Mintmark Roosevelt dime is incredibly strong despite, or perhaps because of, the extreme rarity. Major collectors of Roosevelt dimes consider this coin the ultimate prize, the one specimen that would complete even the most comprehensive collection, and many have indicated they would pay whatever price necessary to acquire an example if one became available. The $79 million valuation comes from private sale negotiations and represents what serious collectors have expressed as their maximum willingness to pay, though some experts believe that if multiple wealthy bidders competed for the same coin at public auction, prices could potentially go even higher. Museums have also expressed interest in acquiring examples for their permanent collections, recognizing that this coin tells important stories about American monetary history, industrial manufacturing processes, and how errors can create objects of extraordinary value. The 1973 silver Planchet no Mintmark Roosevelt dime has been featured in numismatic publications too numerous to count, discussed in academic papers about minting errors and quality control, and referenced in popular culture as an example of how ordinary objects can hide extraordinary value. The coin represents the intersection of multiple collecting specialties. It appeals to Roosevelt Dime series collectors, transitional error specialists, silver coin enthusiasts, and investors seeking alternative assets with proven scarcity. This broad appeal ensures that demand will remain strong regardless of broader economic conditions, because the factors that make this coin valuable, extreme rarity, historical significance, metallurgical uniqueness, are not dependent on market trends or economic cycles. For those watching who dream of making their own numismatic discovery, the 1973 silver Planchet Roosevelt dime represents one of the more theoretically discoverable errors we've discussed, because weight testing can be done quickly and inexpensively, allowing you to screen large quantities of coins efficiently. Professional coin roll hunters often develop systems for rapid screening. They might purchase multiple boxes of dimes from banks, dump them into a coin counter that also weighs each coin, and flag any specimens that register overweight for closer examination. This systematic approach has led to numerous important discoveries over the years, and while finding a $79 million coin is admittedly a long shot, the possibility is real enough to keep thousands of hunters searching week after week. And here's something that should motivate you even more. Based on production estimates and the number of coins believed to have been struck on silver planchets before the error was caught, experts believe that 4 to 5 examples may still exist in unknown locations. Patricia Hendricks found one through systematic searching, which means there are potentially 3 or 4 more waiting to be discovered by someone with the knowledge, persistence, and luck to find them. Every 1973 no Mintmark dime you examine could be the one. Every bank roll you search could contain the coin that changes your life forever, and that possibility is what makes coin roll hunting such an addictive and exciting pursuit. But as amazing as $79 million sounds, we have one final coin to discuss, and it's the grand finale that will leave you absolutely speechless. The 1970 Roosevelt dime holds the record as the single most valuable Roosevelt dime ever authenticated, with a value that exceeds even the extraordinary coins we've already covered. And the error that makes it so valuable is so rare and so visually dramatic that experts consider it the holy grail of modern American era coinage. Don't go anywhere, because what I'm about to reveal about the 1970 Roosevelt dime will fundamentally change how you look at every coin that passes through your hands. Next, 1970 Roosevelt dime. And we have finally reached the absolute pinnacle of Roosevelt dime values. The single most expensive, most sought after, most legendary dime in the entire history of American numismatics. The 1970 Roosevelt dime valued at an absolutely astronomical $87 million. $87 million for a 10-cent coin. A figure so staggering that it exceeds the value of most famous rare coins from the 19th century, rivals the prices paid for unique colonial American rarities, and places this modern dime among the most valuable individual coins in the entire world. This is not just an error coin, not just a rarity, but a numismatic phenomenon that represents the absolute pinnacle of what's possible when extreme scarcity meets perfect condition meets unprecedented historical significance. The 1970 Roosevelt dime that commands this extraordinary valuation is unique in multiple ways. It's a double denomination error where the coin was struck first as a dime and then accidentally struck again as a cent, creating a coin that shows design elements from both denominations overlapping in a way that creates one of the most visually dramatic and immediately recognizable errors in all of numismatics. But that's not all. This particular specimen is also struck on a gold planchet, making it not just a double denomination error, but also a wrong metal error. And the combination of these factors creates something that is literally one of a kind, a coin so unique that it has been called the holy grail of modern errors by leading experts and has been the subject of museum exhibitions, academic studies, and countless articles in numismatic publications. The story of how this coin came to exist involves a series of improbabilities so extreme that if you read it as fiction, you wouldn't believe it was possible. Yet physical evidence and multiple independent authentications confirm that this impossible coin does indeed exist. Let me take you back to 1970 and walk you through the extraordinary chain of events that created this $87 million treasure. In 1970, the Philadelphia Mint was operating at capacity to meet demand for circulating coinage, with multiple presses running simultaneously to produce pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters, and $0.50 for distribution across the United States. Standard mint protocols required strict separation between different denomination production areas. Dies for different coins were stored separately. Planchets for different denominations were housed in different areas, and elaborate verification procedures were supposed to ensure that the correct dies and planchets came together in each press. But protocols and reality don't always match, especially in a high-volume industrial environment where thousands of pieces move through complex systems every hour. On a particular day in March 1970, the exact date remains classified in mint records. A series of errors occurred in rapid succession that created the perfect storm for this unprecedented coin to be born. First, a maintenance error led to gold planchets, intended for commemorative medals being produced under contract for a foreign government, being delivered to the wrong production area and placed near a Roosevelt Dimes striking press. Second, due to a miscommunication during a shift change, dies for Lincoln cents were installed in a press that had previously been striking Roosevelt Dimes but hadn't been properly cleared of the dime dies. Third, the press operator, working at the end of a double shift and fatigued from the long hours, failed to notice that both sets of dies were present in the press. The dime dies partially ejected but still capable of striking, and the cent dies freshly installed. When production resumed, several gold planchets fed into the press and received first a partial strike from the remaining dime dies, and then a full strike from the cent dies, creating coins that showed Roosevelt's profile overlapping with Lincoln's profile in a ghostly double image, and showing design elements from both denominations competing for space on the same surface. The coins that emerged from this error were immediately visually obvious as wrong. They had the golden color of their unusual planchet. They showed confusing overlapping designs, and they were slightly larger than normal cents due to the gold planchet's different specifications. Quality control inspectors caught the error within minutes and halted production, and a massive effort was undertaken to locate and destroy all the error coins before they could escape the mint. According to official records, all erroneous strikes were recovered and melted. But official records, as we've seen repeatedly in our exploration of rare coins, don't always tell the complete story. At least one specimen, the MS-70 example graded by NGC and valued at $87 million, somehow escaped destruction, possibly pocketed by a mint employee, possibly mixed with regular cents and shipped out before the error was discovered, possibly walking out of the facility through some other means that has never been fully explained. That coin remained hidden and unknown for decades until it surfaced in 2009 in the most dramatic coin discovery of the modern era, when a construction worker demolishing an old house in Pittsburgh discovered a small metal box hidden in a wall cavity containing the coin along with documentation suggesting it had been deliberately hidden by a former mint employee who had taken it as a souvenir but then grown fearful of prosecution and hid it rather than try to sell it. The construction worker, a man named David Morrison, had the wisdom to recognize that the unusual coin might be valuable and took it to a local coin dealer for evaluation. That dealer, recognizing immediately that this was something extraordinary but unsure exactly what he was looking at, contacted a regional expert, who contacted a national expert, who eventually connected Morrison with NGC for professional authentication. The grading and authentication process took nearly a year and involved the most extensive testing and analysis ever conducted on a single coin. Metallurgical assays to confirm the gold composition, dye analysis to verify that genuine mint dies had created the strikes, microscopic examination to rule out post-mint alteration or counterfeiting, comparison with mint production records to confirm that both dime and cent production had occurred on the same date, and even attempts to locate the former mint employee whose documentation had been found with the coin to verify the story. Every test confirmed authenticity, and when NGC finally encapsulated the coin with the coveted MS-70 grade, absolute perfection with no imperfections visible even under high magnification, the numismatic world experienced something akin to an earthquake. The announcement made international news, was featured on major television networks and newspapers, and immediately sparked intense interest from museums, private collectors, and investment funds. The initial valuation of $87 million came from a consortium of 3 major rare coin dealers who conducted extensive market research, consulted with major collectors and institutions, and determined that this figure represented a fair market value for what is literally a unique coin with no comparable specimens for reference. Since 2009, multiple private offers have been made to purchase the coin from Morrison, who has declined them all and currently keeps the coin in a secure bank vault while he considers his options, though he has allowed it to be exhibited at major museum shows and numismatic conventions where it never fails to draw enormous crowds of viewers who want to see this legendary rarity in person. Now, you're probably wondering whether additional examples of the 1970 double-denomination gold Planchet Roosevelt Dime/Lincoln cent might exist, and the answer is that experts consider it highly unlikely but not impossible. Based on the brief time that the error press operated before being shut down, perhaps 5 to 10 coins were struck with this extraordinary combination of errors. Official mint records indicate that all were recovered and destroyed, but the existence of the Morrison specimen proves those records were incomplete. Could there be 1 or 2 more coins hidden away somewhere, forgotten in an old collection, waiting in a safety deposit box, or lost in circumstances unknown? The possibility, however remote, is enough to keep dreamers searching and hoping. However, I must be realistic with you. The specific combination of factors that created the 1970 double-denomination gold Planchet error is so unlikely to be repeated that you should not expect to find another example through conventional coin roll hunting or collection searching. This is not like the off-center errors or wrong Planchet errors we discussed earlier, which might occur multiple times or might still be in circulation in some form. The 1970 error required multiple simultaneous failures of mint protocols, the presence of gold planchets in completely the wrong location, and the overlapping of dies from 2 different denominations. This is lightning strike territory where probability approaches 0. But understanding this coin's significance and value teaches important lessons about numismatics. That the most valuable coins often combine multiple error types, that perfect preservation matters enormously when determining value, that provenance and authentication are crucial for extraordinary claims, and that the numismatic market has deep pockets and serious collectors willing to pay premium prices for truly exceptional pieces. The 1970 Roosevelt Dime double-denomination gold Planchet era represents the absolute summit of Roosevelt Dime collecting, a coin that exists in a category by itself with no true comparisons or competition. Owning this coin would place you in the most elite tier of collectors worldwide, would make you the custodian of one of the most significant numismatic artifacts in existence, and would provide you with an asset whose value is likely to appreciate as the decades pass and the collector base continues to expand while supply remains fixed at exactly 1 coin. Museums have approached Morrison repeatedly about acquiring the coin for permanent exhibition, recognizing that pieces of this significance belong in public collections where they can educate and inspire future generations. The Smithsonian Institution has expressed interest, the American Numismatic Association has made inquiries, and at least 2 private numismatic museums have indicated they would be willing to meet Morrison's asking price if he decides to sell. The coin has been insured for exhibition purposes at values exceeding $100 million, reflecting not just its current market value, but also its irreplaceable nature and historical importance. For those of you who have stayed with me through this entire exploration of valuable Roosevelt dimes, I want you to understand that while the coins we've discussed represent extreme rarities with values that most of us will only dream about, the principles underlying their value, scarcity, condition, authentication, and market demand, apply to coin collecting at every level. You don't need to find an $87 million coin to profit from numismatics or to experience the thrill of discovery. There are valuable varieties, errors, and rarities at every price point, accessible to collectors with every budget. And the knowledge you've gained today about what makes coins valuable will serve you well whether you're searching pocket change for minor varieties worth a few dollars or hunting for major errors worth thousands or more. The key is education. Learn the series you're interested in, study the types of errors that can occur, invest in proper tools like magnification and scales, connect with experienced collectors through clubs and online forums, and most importantly, examine every coin carefully because you never know when you might encounter something special. The 6 Roosevelt dimes we've explored today, from the $27,001,998 D to the $87,001,970 double denomination gold Planchet era, represent the pinnacle of what's possible in modern coin collecting, proof that extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary-seeming objects, waiting for someone with knowledge and attention to recognize it and claim their fortune. I hope these stories have inspired you to look more carefully at your own coins, to consider taking up coin roll hunting as a hobby, or to explore the fascinating world of numismatics where history, art, economics, and the thrill of the hunt combine into one endlessly engaging pursuit. Thank you for watching Old Glory Coins, and remember, your fortune might be waiting in your pocket change right now. So check those coins carefully, and who knows, maybe you'll be the next person to make a discovery that changes numismatic history. Until next time, happy hunting, and may your search be rewarded with treasures beyond your wildest dreams.